Hi, I'm Dave Gallman, and I'm presenting this recording of my webinar, How to Buy a House Without Losing Your Mind or Your Money. I prefer to do these things live so that I can interact with you, the viewer, and answer any questions. I'll be linking contact information in the description below so that you can hit me up after the fact, and I look forward to hearing from you. Today I'm going to be presenting 14 best practice tips and 2 money-saving ideas for the home buying process. But I'm going to begin by answering the question, what's with the title? There are 2 things that drive people crazy about buying a house. The first, I think, is based on miscast expectations. And the second is a loss of control throughout a complicated process. Here's a flow chart of the home buying process. It begins in the upper left-hand corner with your decision to buy a home. And then it ends, hopefully, in the bottom right-hand corner with the ownership and quiet enjoyment of your dream house. So my first observation to buyers when I begin to work with them is just that real estate wants to go slowly. It's a complicated process, and to do each part right just takes some time, and you have to give it its due. Among real estate agents, we say that a quick closing is 21 days. So if everything goes perfectly smoothly and there's no hitches on anything, 21 days is about as fast as it can go. You'd like to think because you're buying a house and you're spending a lot of money and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you actually will have some say in how it goes or how quickly it goes, and you don't. The area in green here is what I refer to as the rollercoaster phase. So this is the part of the process where there are little setbacks and victories and setbacks and victories. There are emotional highs and lows. And there are those nerve-wracking waiting periods where there's nothing you can do except sit back and hope everything works out. The steps in the peach boxes are those areas where you, the buyer, lose complete control over the process. My goal for this webinar is to help you understand the home buying process better so that you can manage expectations and flatten out some of the highs and lows. I always cringe a little bit when I hear other real estate agents promise people a hassle-free process. There's no such thing. If you're going to buy a house, there's going to be some unpleasant toil and there's going to be a lot of hassle. But it's going to be worth it in the end. And what I hope I can do is help you understand, help you navigate the process, and flatten out some of the highs and lows. First things first, where should you begin? If you're like me and you're like most people, you start here. You go to one of the big name internet real estate websites and you do a search for property and you start looking at all the wonderful places and everything that's on the market, and you start to think, okay, what looks good to me? What's right for me? Don't do that. Here's where you should begin. Begin with financing. It's not sexy, it's not fun, but it's the essential first step. Many people want to go to LendingTree or Rocket Mortgage or even Bank of America or Chase Bank and enter some information into a loan application form and see if they can get pre-qualified. So I would say be wary of that, because actually you're not being pre-qualified or pre-approved for anything. What is happening is you're being put into the top of a sales funnel where a loan officer will then follow up with you and get more detailed information that they can actually use to write a loan with. My recommendation is use a mortgage broker. A mortgage broker will do what LendingTree and Rocket Mortgage claim to do, which is they will shop your loan to many different banks at the same time. They will take more information up front from you so that they can actually pre-qualify you for a loan. Here are 2 approaches. You can ask a mortgage broker how much you can qualify for, and likely they will try to qualify you for a loan of $453,100 because that's the maximum limit that defines a conventional 30-year low interest rate home mortgage. This is what your parents probably used to buy their house. You don't have to spend all that money. You don't have to use all that money, but they will pre-qualify you for that amount. You can also go to a mortgage broker and say, from a budgetary standpoint, and say, I'd like my mortgage to be, just to make up a number, $1,850 a month. What loan can you get me where that's my payment? And this will help you set some criteria for what you can and want to spend on a house. On the subject of mortgage brokers, here's my first money-saving tip. Usually their services to you are free. They get paid by the banks further down the line. So it doesn't cost you anything to bring a mortgage expert to bear on your behalf. So it's a good idea. When you emerge from the pre-qualification process, you should receive an approval letter from a lending institution with a number on it that says, here's how much you're qualified to borrow. Another little bit of inside real estate agent information. Most of us won't take you out to do a go-see unless you have an approval letter and we know that you can actually afford the houses that we're showing you. So get a letter. Get your financing in order. Get your financing set up. It will make every other part of the process just that much easier and smoother. Step 2, organize. When you apply for your bank loan, the banks are going to ask you for some pay stubs. They're going to run your credit. They're going to ask for some bank statements, potentially some back taxes. They will want the name and contact information for your employer so they can verify your employment. Do yourself a favor and get everything organized into either a digital folder on the desktop of your computer or a physical folder where you have everything organized. It is possible, and it has been my experience, that the banks will lose one bit of your documentation and ask you to send it to them again. Don't waste your breath complaining. Don't bang your fists on the desk. Just send it to them as quickly as possible. And if you have it organized, you can do it without even thinking about it. Further along in the process, when you get a house that you're made an offer on, the banks will ask you probably for an update of all of this information. So for your bank statements, for instance, if you have your online logins for your bank account and you can just pull an electronic copy of your latest bank statements, it makes your life just so much easier. Just be prepared to have to prove up your financial viability again and again to the bank. It's just how they operate, and there's nothing you can do about it. So get organized, and that takes some of the toil out of it. Step 3, play the Post-it game. Gather everyone in your family, your spouse, who's going to live in the new house with you. Give everybody a pad of Post-its and a pen, and have everybody write down what are the essential elements of a new house, what are the nice to haves, and what would be included in your dream home. Write everything down, and then put them out on the tabletop and reorganize them and prioritize them, and then write that list up. You'll be surprised that as you go and see houses, how a house that has most of what you need but not everything may have something else that you really like, and then you have that list of criteria that you can gauge it against and figure out what kind of compromises you're willing to make, or what things actually you thought you needed but actually don't really care that much about once you've actually found a place that you love. The Post-it game really helps you clarify your thinking. Another bit of inside real estate agent information is we all say to each other, there's no 100% house. Nobody gets everything they want in a house, even very rich people. Step 4, then go do a search. In North Texas, the multiple listing service, which a real estate agent can give you access to, tends to have the freshest information. So for my agency, Keller Williams, we actually have a syndication agreement with all of the big, or I should say many of the big real estate websites that you see listed across the top of the page. So whenever something goes into the MLS, sometime shortly thereafter, it gets broadcast out to the big web search portals. But it tends to be maybe a little fresher in the MLS and may make a difference. Do some searches online for crime, quality of schools, and work opportunities. One thing I like to tell people about work is if you can possibly live east of where you work, then when you commute into work in the morning, the sun will be at your back. And when you commute home at night, the sun will again be at your back, and you won't have to drive into the sun on your way into work. Just a little tip. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't, but it's a nice to have. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a price list, and that's actually off of Zillow. And you'll see that there are pretty broad differences in search criteria. So, on the lower end, there's $25,000 difference between a $50,000 house and $75,000, between $100,000 and $150,000. And then when you get up to the $300,000, it starts jumping in increments of $100,000. I say expand your parameters. The house that you may be looking at, I say be sure to expand your parameters. You may have done a lot of searches in just to make up numbers, the $250,000 to $300,000 range, and you haven't found anything that you like. But then something might come along that's $299,999 that is the perfect house, but you've eliminated that as a search range because nothing you've seen previously actually works for you in that price range. It may be just a little over or just a little under either side. So just make sure you push your criteria out. You will get more options. You will get more options that maybe don't work for you, but you might also then sweep up the perfect house for you that may have fallen just outside of the parameters that you had before. So just expand your parameters a little bit and just see what's out there. It doesn't cost you anything to search. I would then have your real estate agent take you out and show you some places, and I would expect to see something like 15 or 20 homes. You'll be surprised. There's a difference between what the online marketing shows and what the house actually does show. Another little bit of insider real estate agent information. We're really, really good at making houses look great on the internet. But you might get there in person and go, it looked great, but this isn't for me. There may be another place that you saw that looked, maybe not so good, but it was nearby, and you thought, well, we'll swing in there since we're nearby, and that is the one that turns out to be the house that you fall in love with. So just expand your parameters and expect to go and see 15 or 20 places. So we're heading into the offer and the roller coaster phase, like I mentioned before, and I've got some pretty pictures of some beautiful people at the bottom of the screen. My wife teases me that if there was a renovation or a real estate show on TV that was hosted by sock puppets, I would be there on the couch with popcorn watching it. I love reno shows, but I always like to point out to my buyers and my sellers, the people at the bottom of the screen are TV people. They're not real estate people. If they were making millions of dollars in real estate, they wouldn't be on TV. Just bear that in mind as we go through the next phase. What you want to think, and this gets back to miscast expectations, is that the people at the bottom of the screen, like particularly the property brothers, they turn in an offer. 2 minutes later, they're going back to their buyers and they go, oh, you bought a house. All you have to do is say, go for it. And, and everything works out smoothly and perfectly. And you never see the host of production people behind the scenes that are pulling the strings and doing the negotiating and all that sort of stuff. It's not as easy as it looks on TV. What is it really like? The market in DFW right now is insane. So I include this picture from The Walking Dead of the zombie apocalypse because the market in DFW is very much like the zombie horde. It moves in a herd, it's unthinking, it's unfeeling, and it will try and eat your brain if you let it. So be prepared for multiple offer situations and competition. You have found a perfect place online. Many other people have also seen it and may have submitted offers. Be prepared to write a full price offer. According to the MLS statistics, most houses in DFW right now are selling for, in a bad week, 99% of their list price. So it's unlikely that you're going to go in with a lowball offer and actually win the deal. Be prepared to write a full price offer. It sounds corny. Write a letter to the seller. another bit of insider information from agents. We all have had an offer in, and it was a competitive situation, and our buyers wrote a heartfelt letter about themselves and about their desire for the house to the seller, and the seller chose our offer against an equally competitive financial offer because, the sellers bought the house, raised their kids, and they see themselves in the buyers. The buyers are like us when we bought this house, and we loved this house and we raised our kids here, and we want our house to go to another family that's going to raise their kids and have the same experience. It's emotional. It sounds corny. Do it. In the process, you will have fallen in love with the house. You'll have gone through a lot of toil to get your financing in place. You'll have gone through a lot of toil to sort out the best place for you. You'll have put in an offer. You'll have negotiated. Then I say be open and flexible, and be prepared to walk away. So be open and flexible might mean, hey, the sellers need an extra 30 days to get out of the house. Be flexible. Give them the 30 days. There may be points at which you find that you cannot actually move forward with the deal, and it'll break your heart, but be prepared to walk away. A home is someplace you're going to live for, if averages bear out, at least 5 years. That's 5 birthdays, 5 high holiday seasons, 5 New Year's parties, 5 Halloweens, 5 years of your life. And if you're in a place that doesn't work for you, it's going to be unpleasant. Throughout the process, the buyer is well protected, and you actually have 23 outs, ways that you can back out of a contract if you decide that the deal that you thought was going to be so good, the place that you love so much, actually isn't the right place for you. Your real estate agent can help you get out of the deal. Be wary of special cases. I have had people come to me and say, here's what I'm looking for. Oh, it's a 4-3 with 2,000 square feet, and I want to live on this side of I-35 or that side of I-35. And then they will say these magic words, I'm looking for a steal, and you'll know it when you see it. So the market is super tight in DFW right now. Many, many, many investors are out there and have teams of people combing the local listings for good deals. I'm just going to give you a heads up. It is unlikely that you are going to get a steal unless maybe you get an off-the-market house. So you approach a seller before their house has even been listed. But even then, it is unlikely that you're going to get a steal. I would say be wary of a fixer-upper. You don't want to live in a house while it's being renovated unless you are in the trades or are a very skilled DIYer. You probably don't want to take on a fixer-upper. It's going to take a lot more time and a lot more money than you budget if you're trying to stumble through a renovation yourself. I counsel most people against foreclosure and REO properties. If you don't know what an REO property is, then it's probably not for you. And here's why I tend to steer people away from those seemingly great deals. Most of the time you're going to purchase them at auction, and you're going to need to have all your cash up front on the spot. And most people don't have $300,000 of cash sitting around. They won't sell them to you for a conventional loan. You can't go and buy them and then go to the bank and say, hey, I got this property. Apart from the challenges with financing and just needing a huge pile of cash to purchase one of those kinds of properties, you don't usually know what you're getting. There could be mechanics liens, there could be back taxes, there could be problems with the property itself, and you won't really have as much protection or as much opportunity to vet the property out before you buy it. So you might be buying a big money pit that's a nightmare. Most people don't have the stomach for it or the finances for it Unless you're an investor or very adventurous, I would say stay away from the foreclosures and the REOs. Also, I would say stay away from places that offer seller financing. Most of the time, seller financing people are gambling that they can effectively take your money, that you'll default, and they'll take the property back, and you'll effectively have rented the place, but they'll have fleeced you out of some money. I would say avoid that. 6, the rollercoaster phase that I mentioned before. That was the section in green on that flowchart. What happens during the rollercoaster phase is you will hire an inspector. They will find a list of problems. They will always find a list of some things that are wrong with the house. They're paid to do it. They have eagle eyes. What you want them to watch out for are things that are catastrophically wrong with the house that would prevent you from wanting to complete the transaction. Hopefully, simultaneous to the inspection, the bank will send out an appraiser to make a valuation of the home. The bank wants to be reassured that the asset that they're loaning money against is equal to the value of the loan. The concern here is that the appraiser may appraise the home for less than the sale price, and that the buyer will have to make up the difference in cash or not be able to buy the home. Let's assume that there are no problems with the appraisal. The bank will then do final approval on your loan. When you submitted your loan application, you sent them some documentation and you got a pre-qualification letter. This was actually not a guarantee of a loan. Very close to closing, the bank will run all your financials again. They'll look at your pay stubs, they'll verify your employment, they'll make sure you haven't taken on a lot of debt. Every real estate agent in the business counsels their buyers, during the home buying process, don't make a material change to your financial situation. The mistake that buyers sometimes make is they assume that a pre-qualification is a guarantee of a loan. So they go out and say, well, I got my financing in place, and they go out and buy a whole suite of new furniture for their new house, and they drop $20,000 onto a credit card. Right near closing, the bank sees that you have a bunch of new debt and may reassess your financial viability for paying off your mortgage monthly, and they may deny your loan at the very end. So don't do that. Wait until you have actually completed the purchase of the home, and then you can go buy your furniture. The bank will not have any ability to make a change at that point. Step 7, closing. So at the very end of the process, when all of the inspections and the repairs have been completed, when the appraisals are done and the loan is approved and you have the green light from the bank to complete the purchase of the house, the buyers and the sellers will go to a title company. The title company is an entity that draws up all the legal paperwork to make sure that there is a clean transfer of title and that the purchase gets recorded in the county records. Here is my second money-saving tip. There is a big email phishing scam going on in which scammers will email people and ask them to wire the funds for their home purchase to not the title company's escrow account, but to their own account, and they just make off with the money. Be wary. The title company is going to ask you for payment by either cashier's check, which is the same as carrying around a piece of cash for several $100,000, or to wire the money. Don't respond to any email request to wire funds. Work that out at your bank, work it out in person with the title company. Just make sure that when you're wiring the money, it's going to the correct party. A couple of other notes. Be sure to bring your ID. They'll want to see it, verify your identity. And that's when keys and garage door clickers are going to be transferred. Make some arrangement. What often happens is the buyer's agent will collect the keys and the garage door clickers from the seller's agent and pass them over to the buyers at closing. I always mention garage door clickers because those tend to be forgotten in the process, and then a week later the new buyers are saying, how do I get my garage door up and down? And the sellers have been moving and they've lost them, or they're in the bottom of a box, or they stuck them somewhere that seemed logical at the time but are now lost, and so forth. So just remember garage door clickers. And that's the end of the process. Please hit me up if you have any questions. I'm putting links to my contact information below. I hope you have all the success in the world buying a new home, and please let me know if I can be any help in making that happen. If this presentation has been useful to you, please hit the like button. If you'd like to hear more market updates and featured homes and presentations like this, please hit the subscribe button. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments below, and as always, I will see you in the next one.